Sinai was considered sacred at a much earlier date. Mount Fuji surpasses it in beauty and height, and Mount Kailash evokes a far greater sense of mystery. Nevertheless, no other mountain has been revered by so many people from such a variety of religions for so many centuries as Sripada has. Due to its significance to the various groups of people, the mountain is referred to by a variety of names. The often used Sripada is derived from Sanskrit, used by the Sinhalese people in a religious context. This name also has meanings in Pali and may be translated roughly as the sacred foot. It refers to the footprint-shaped mark at the summit, which is believed by Buddhists to be that of the Lord Buddha. Christian and Islamic traditions assert that it is the footprint of Adam when he was placed on earth after having been cast out of paradise, giving it the name Adam's Peak. Hindu tradition refers to the footprint as that of the Hindu deity Shiva, and thus names the mountain Shiva Padam or Shiva's foot in Tamil. In the Mahavamsa, the great chronicle of Sri Lanka, it is called Samantakuta, which means Samanta's abode, while in modern Sinhalese it is often called Samanalakanda, which means Saman's mountain, which refers either to the deity Saman, who is said to live upon the mountain, or to the butterflies, which are known as Samanalaya, that frequent the mountain during their annual migrations to the region. Other local and historic names include Ratnagiri, which means the mountain of gems, and the Arabic Ar-Rahun, apparently for being from the Ruhuna region, Mount Rohana, and Svargarohanam, which means the climb to heaven. The Portuguese called it Pico de Adam and the English Adam's Peak, and the first Western reference to Sripada is in Ptolemy's geography, where it is called Valspada. Popular tradition has it that God chose this island for Adam's arrival on earth because it was closest to paradise in comparison. From perhaps as early as the 1st century BC, the Sinhalese believed this mark to be the footprint of the Lord Buddha himself, and is therefore an important pilgrimage site, especially for Buddhists. According to the Mahavamsa, Lord Buddha visited the island 3 times, and during his last sojourn, he flew from Kelaniya to Sripada, leaving the impression of his foot, and then left for Digavapi. Marco Polo made an interesting observation regarding the religious beliefs prevalent at the time. The idolaters or Buddhists believed that the shrine on the peak, the tooth, the hair, and bone relics enshrined in various places in the island all belong to the Buddha, whereas the Saracens or the Arabs who came on pilgrimage in large numbers held that they all belonged to Adam. However, there was no conflict despite the divergent views. Sri Lanka figured prominently as an entrepot of trade in the maritime trading routes of the East, and over time the Arabs began to cultivate a profound love for our country. Arabian mariners often found their way to the island to visit Adam's Peak, which they regarded as the first home of the father of mankind, Adam, peace be upon him, after his fall from paradise. Their love for our island is reflected in the many references to Sri Lanka scattered in their classical literature. Idrisi writes, it is so elevated that it can be seen several journeys out to sea. Ibn Battuta wrote that he saw the mountain rising into the heavens like a pillar of smoke. It was these men, sailors, merchants, and adventurers who took the legends and stories about Sripada to the furthermost corners of the known world. The legend even influenced the story of Sinbad the Sailor in the Arabian Nights. Sinbad, who came from Oman, was a successful merchant seafarer, and the story is set during the reign of the Caliph of Baghdad, Harun al-Rashid. Sinbad says, I made, by way of devotion, a pilgrimage to the place where Adam was confined after his banishment from paradise, and had curiosity to go to the top of the mountain. My raft flew swiftly under the archway, and I found myself in total darkness, carried forward by the rapid river. I fell into a deep sleep, and when I awoke, I was once more in the light of day. A beautiful country lay before me, and I was surrounded by friendly-looking farmers. One spoke Arabic, and they swam out and brought the raft to shore. Having listened to his wondrous tale, they brought him before the king, who, on hearing it, directed Sinbad to stay in Serendib until he arranged a special gift for the Caliph Harun al-Rashid. The fact that Adam's Peak was a favorite place of pilgrimage for Muslims is testified by several references to it in the records of Arab travelers. Mention is made of a Suleiman, an Arab trader and explorer, Sheikh Uzman, who served as Ibn Battuta's guide to Adam's Peak, Ustad Mahmud Luri, a pious man who lived in a cave near this capital city, Baba Tahir and Baba Khuzi, who were other pious Muslims that Ibn Battuta encountered. According to Ibn Battuta, the first Muslim pilgrim to have opened the way to the peak for the Muslims was the great Sheikh Abu Abdullah Khafif, who came to Sri Lanka in 929 AD. It is narrated in the Rehla that the Sheikh, a highly respected personage in Persia, together with 30 other dervishes, visited Sri Lanka. At this time, the Sinhalese villagers of the interior were reluctant to communicate with these strangers. While traveling through the mountain paths that led to the peak, the pilgrims were in urgent need of food. Seeing large numbers of baby elephants around, the dervishes expressed a desire to capture one to satisfy their hunger. The sheikh objected to this, but the dervishes, overcome by hunger, slaughtered a young elephant. The sheikh did not participate in this diet. In the dead of night, when the dervishes were sleeping, the elephant herd took their revenge, killing all the dervishes. They sniffed the sheikh, and aware of his innocence, one of the herd lifted him by its trunk, placed him on its back, and took him to the inhabited area. The people witnessed his arrival and took the sheikh to the king and narrated this miraculous story to him. Dr. Lorna Devaraja, in her book The Muslims of Sri Lanka, mentions, this is quite an acceptable story since the Sri Lankan elephant is well known for acts of gratitude and revenge. It is said that the sheikh continued to live among the Sinhalese for some time. The fame and piety of this saint would certainly have spread among the Sinhalese in many parts of the country and thereby enhanced the image of the Arab pilgrims. And up to this day, they revere the said sheikh and call him the Great Sheikh. Marco Polo states, "For in this island and nowhere else in the world are produced superb and authentic rubies. The island also produces sapphires, topazes, amethysts, garnets, and many other precious stones, and I assure you that the king of this province possesses the finest ruby that exists in this world, the finest certainly that was ever seen or is likely to be seen. Precious stones from Sri Lanka had much demand in the thriving markets of the Middle East of those days. In fact, one of the names by which the island was known among the Arabs of old was Jazirat al-Yaqut, meaning Island of Rubies, the name by which Al-Baladhuri writes about Sri Lanka, and we also read in the history of Tabari that he referred to Serendib as Ardul Jauhar, or the land of jewels. True diamonds do not occur in Sri Lanka, but almost every other precious and semi-precious stone is found. Rubies, cat's eyes, carnelians, and of course the famous blue sapphires. Today, the gem dealers of Sri Lanka are nearly all Muslims, and most of them claim Arab descent. They effectively control the production of gems and have done so for as long as can be remembered. True cinnamon is known in Arabic as Kirfa Ceylaniya, meaning Ceylon cinnamon. Although not actually growing on Sripada's slopes, but in the forests further north and west, Sri Lanka's famous spices have long been associated with the sacred mountain too. A 14th century Persian poem says that God created all Sri Lanka's spices and flowers so that Adam's transition from paradise to earth would be less painful. Arab geographer Al-Idrisi in his Kitab Nuzhat al-Mushtaq states, "In the mountains around Adam's Peak are produced aromatic drugs, perfumes and aloes wood, and there too they find the animals, the civet which yields musk. The islanders cultivate rice, coconuts and sugarcane. In the rivers is found rock crystal, remarkable both for brilliancy and size, and the sea on every side has a fishery of magnificent and priceless pearls. Throughout India there is no prince whose wealth can compare with the king of Serendib, his immense riches, his pearls and his jewels being the produce of his own dominions and seas." About 150 feet below the summit, just next to the last tea shop, is the Bhagava cave. There are two inscriptions on the wall of this cave. An Arabic inscription ascribed to the 13th century found in it is interesting. It has attracted further notice since it is written by the side of a Sinhala inscription of King Nisanka Malla when he climbed Sripada during one of the many tours he made of his kingdom. This inscription of the king records the improvements he made to the path up the mountain and the generous gifts he offered to its shrines. The Arabic inscription beside it, which is fragmentary, states, "Muhammad, may God bless him," and it also states, "the father of mankind," perhaps regarding Adam, since this inscription was installed some feet below the peak. The existence side by side on the sacred peak of a Sinhala Buddhist inscription and an Arabic Islamic one is symbolic of the spirit of religious harmony that prevailed and still continues to pervade the pilgrims of various races and religions while ascending the holy mountain.